Hello everyone, welcome back to digit.in. It's been a long time since I did one of these review videos, and I'm glad that the one that I'm doing today is of the iPhone XS Max. This is one of the most anticipated iPhone launches, just like every other year, but this year we see Apple do a lot of things differently for some reason. Now, the iPhone XS Max, the review unit that we've had was the 512 GB variant, which costs 1,44,990. That's a very expensive smartphone right there. So if you are wondering whether this phone is worth the money or not, continue watching this video. So let's talk about what's actually different this time around. So of course we get the same glass sandwich design. Apple says this is one of the strongest glasses they've ever used on a smartphone, and that's something they say every year. But glass is glass, and I would not recommend dropping the phone because if you break it, it's very expensive to repair. Now, so you have the glass. On the front you have an OLED display, which is about a 2.5K resolution display. It supports HDR10 like last year, but this year it also supports Dolby Vision. So which means it's a 10-bit panel. It's one gorgeous looking display. That's something you have to credit Apple and perhaps even Samsung for. You're going to enjoy watching any kind of content on this, especially if it's HDR content. One big area of boost this time around is the processing power and an overall performance jump. That's because the A12 Bionic chip this year is manufactured on the 7nm process. This allows the iPhone XS Max to not only be faster than pretty much every other smartphone out there, but also more battery efficient. Apple doesn't give out any numbers in terms of how long the battery will last, but all they said was 1.5 hours more than the iPhone X. But in my use, I was getting about 1.25, maybe 1.5 days if I was a little conservative. What that means is plug it off the charger at 8 in the morning, and then by the time I got to office the next day, say around 9:30, 10 in the morning, I'd have to put it back to charge at by 11. Still, it's commendable. It's pretty decent battery life for an OLED display. It's pretty decent battery life for such a powerful chip. Speaking of powerful, if you're thinking about benchmark numbers, this phone blows every other Android smartphone out of the water. Whether it's the Samsungs, whether it's even OnePlus, no Snapdragon 845 chip configuration has yet come close to the numbers that the iPhone XS Max has achieved with its A12 Bionic. So that is a very impressive number. You can check out all the charts in our review, and suffice to say, there is not a single app that the phone could not handle. In fact, in about the 2 weeks that I've been using this phone, I've not really had to close any apps that have been running in the background until this morning. So when I reset the phone. Anyhow, so yes, performance wise, again, there is going to be absolutely no complaints. The camera has improved as well. You're still getting the same 26 and 52mm lenses at the back. Both lenses have optical image stabilization. The prime sensor has of course been improved with a wider pixel pitch of 1.4 micrometers. Apple has also said they've increased the number of face detect pixels on the sensor. The result is of course the focusing is markedly faster compared to the previous generation, the iPhone X, iPhone 8, 8 Plus, everything. No matter what you consider, the iPhone XS Max has a faster focusing camera. Also, the imaging quality has definitely improved over its previous generation. In fact, we just did a very in-depth comparison between the iPhone XS, the Google Pixel 2 XL, and the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. And the iPhone wins just by a hair, like literally a few decimal points of score. But it is much better than the previous generation. You might find some problems when you're shooting in low light, for which I would recommend shooting in RAW so that you can get the most out of the sensor. But overall, you're not going to be disappointed. It is one speedy camera. Portrait mode, unfortunately, as good as it may have become, it's still limited to only shooting subjects within a specific distance, which means there is no possibility of either a full-length portrait of a person or taking extreme close-ups in portrait mode. The person has to be up to 2.5 meters away and you don't have a choice about it. So that's about the camera. Now talking about the front-facing camera. There's been some controversy over some beautification filter that people have said the iPhone is applying. That is actually not true. What the iPhone XS is doing now, the XS and the XS Max, is because there's a new smart HDR algorithm. what it does is it combines information from a burst of images together. And when it does that, if it's going to take a burst of photos, it needs a fast shutter speed. So in order to have a fast shutter speed, the iPhone bumps up the ISO, and then when the images are finally combined, there is a slight amount of noise reduction being applied, which causes the skin to soften. Now, any photographer who's been shooting professionally would know that this is what was happening. However, some people have gone out and said that this is some Beautygate controversy and Apple's applying some beautification filter, and that is just not the case. However, Apple did say that they're going to work on improving the amount of detail that is retained in the photos shot from the front-facing camera. However, that being said, camera photos still pretty amazing. This is one of the few cameras I would actually consider taking a photo with, especially because the portrait mode from the front-facing camera works extremely well. Is it the pixel level quality? Not quite there yet, but since it's all software, there is no saying when Apple will improve it, but pretty sure they will. Last and not the least, let's talk about the IP rating. So this phone is now IP68 rated. You can put it underwater up to 2 meters for about 30 minutes maximum. But Apple also made special note of mentioning that they tested this phone for durability against common liquids like, tea and coffee, juice, beer, and the like. So what we did is we took the iPhone XS Max and put it through all sorts of horrible liquids. We have a video for that, do check it out. So after abusing the phone for about an hour in different kinds of liquids, it worked perfectly fine. So there were no issues there as well. But here's the thing. The iPhone XS Max starts at about 1,10,000. It goes all the way up to 1,44,000. It's an expensive phone. It is by far the most expensive common smartphone out there. I'm not going to talk about, by common I mean not the special edition phones, right? It's a lot of money. And for that, what you get is something that you get in practically every other smartphone. You want a great display, you have Samsung. You want a Dolby Vision certified display, you have the LG G7. IP68 ratings there in practically every flagship smartphone. A bigger battery life, in fact, a better battery life is offered by practically every other flagship. Do you want a great audio experience? Again, there's the LG G7. Do you want a great camera? You have the Google Pixel. So all in all, if you look at every feature that the iPhone XS Max offers, you have that in every other flagship smartphone. But the interesting thing is here that no one particular smartphone offers all of them together at the level the iPhone does. So yes, it is definitely one of the best performing smartphones we've ever tested, but it would rate extremely high on our scoring test, and it does in terms of features, performance, in terms of imaging, all of that. But where it loses out is the value for money prospect. Had the iPhone XS Max been cheaper, and by cheaper I mean significantly cheaper, not a lakh, not 90,000, but somewhere let's say in the 80-85 range, this phone have scored 95 plus in our review. But it drops to a 72 simply because of its price, which is way too high compared to what you get in the market in the same league by other manufacturers. So that's a review of the XS Max. In case you're wondering whether you should buy it, I'll give you a simple answer. Do you have $1.5 lakh of rupees to spare? And do you believe in brand value? And do you have certain appearances to keep up? If the answer to all three is yes, then yeah, go for the iPhone XS Max. If not, there are definitely nice, viable options. I wouldn't call them better, but viable options out there for as low as 40,000 bucks, by mind you. That's the LG G7, which offers pretty much the same specification set with some differences here and there. But you can also go for the Pixel 3 XL, which has just come out, and there's of course the Galaxy Note 9. Thank you guys for watching. In case you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Maybe share it with your friend who's thinking about buying an iPhone XS or the XS Max. Thank you for watching.